we're going back to a more standard way of now doing the rest of the afternoon, where we were doing 20-minute talk, 20 minutes Q&A, and then back into the networking side of things. The next couple of sessions are going to be focusing on the real core part of launching your business. So we're going to be looking at the next one that Bill's going to be giving is really, I think, the fundamental part of any business. Once you've got your idea, is idea validation, and it's the thing I'm most passionate about. And then we're following it with another couple of sessions, one around the legal side of it, and what you need to put in place. Because remember, this is all about the business of failure. There's a lot that can go wrong, even if you've got a good idea. So we're going to be concentrating now on these factors very much. So it's going to be 20 minutes, and then networking. So just stay in your seats for the next few minutes while I introduce Bill Murray. Where are you calling in from, Bill, in the States?
I'm in Wisconsin. Hello? Oh, now I can't hear you. Uh-oh. Hello?
Sorry, Bill, just a little bit of a technical problem. If you just give us a second, we'll
Absolutely.
try to. Thank you so much, Bill.
I'm sure it's not me. Hello? Hello?
Hi, they're still working on it.
It's working now. Okay,
Yeah.
well, over to you, Bill.
Hello.
We can hear you now.
Excellent. That's great. All right. Yeah. Perhaps you noticed I'm being intentionally provocative today on Star Wars Day. So live long and prosper.
I know a rude version of that one.
The audio is good?
Yeah, the audio is good.
Okay. Well, let's get started. I know we got a fairly short time here, and I'm not going to teach you anything today. What I do want to do is inspire you to look into some things for yourselves that are going to improve your chances of successfully learning what you need to learn to either persevere with your idea or to stop it or to pivot it. I'm going to show you the value of using some tools and take you through a really great tool to learn about product market fit. So then you feel equipped to go out there and at least give it a try yourself. And that is my goal today. So let's jump in. I'm Bill. I live in Wisconsin. That's where it is right there. And I'm pretty far from any place that matters in the United States, which is just the way I like it. I spend most of my days driving design innovation behaviors at a California-based medical malpractice insurance company. Before that, worked at another large insurance company, again, trying to get people to behave as entrepreneurs inside of a big company. In my spare time, I mentor entrepreneurs and startups around the world. This is how I kind of keep sharp and stay engaged. And really, I specialize in those really early stage customer and discovery, idea validation kind of phases that makes or breaks any idea. And I think what I pride myself most in is talking founders out of ideas that would have torpedoed them and kept them from getting to the next one. And the other thing I like to do is giving caffeine-fueled sermons on customer-centric product design at events like this to anyone who will listen. For the record, I have 2 Cokes and a bag of beef jerky in me, so I am ready to rock and roll. So let's do it. So as an entrepreneur, just to reinforce the focus here today, your job is to maximize failure. When miners dynamite their mine, they're not trying to maximize gold, they're trying to maximize the rubble out of which they know the gold is going to come if they create enough rubble in the most promising parts of the mine. So get very close to your customers, lay that dynamite all around them, blow it up, figuratively, obviously, and then embrace the rubble, because in that rubble, there's the gold. Now, the thing is, though, remember, in the rubble there might be some things you don't want to hear. And I understand that. You know, the idea you have is your baby, and it's this thing that you're very attached to, but your customer might not be. So work in ways that allows you to learn as early as possible. You know, this is a great idea, you know, and I love it, but my customer doesn't. So let's do something that they do love, because it's a lot more fun to drive value for customers than the alternative. Bottom line, though, if you aren't failing in what you're doing, if you aren't seeing failures, then you aren't taking enough risks and you aren't going deep enough. I know we're all afraid of things, you know, as simple as asking a customer to pay. That could be very uncomfortable. But if you don't, then you'll never find out. And I had a team that spent a year trying to get around asking their customer to pay. When they finally did ask their customer to pay, the customer said no. Up to that point, they loved all the free stuff, but they weren't willing to pay. So we had to shut it down. But we could have learned that almost a year earlier and saved a lot of money and time and pain. So thanks to Simon, you've got yourself a validated idea. You've got a customer who has a problem and they're aware of the problem. And you've cut through the lies. Thank you, Chris. You've isolated the say-do gap. You've watched your early adopter customer try to solve their own problem with mixed success, usually poor success. But you've learned a lot from watching the things that they've jury-rigged together. Maybe you're even running some low-fidelity behavioral experimentation. See if your customer will give you an email address. Can you get them to click a buy now button, even if there's a 404 behind it? Oh, hey, sorry, not available in your area. Or some other type of currency. And these are all the things that lead you to know that, hey, we have a customer. We have a customer who wants to solve here. They've got a desire and a budget. Now, remember, budget isn't always money. You might not always be asking, at least initially, for money from your customer. It could be time, could be reputation, could be all kinds of stuff. I had a team that I worked with once. They were working with small farmers, and they found 6 different types of currency these small farmers worked in, and only one of them was cash. So always be aware of those things. And also the other thing to remember is your biggest competition with your customer might be doing nothing, because doing nothing is working okay now, at least comparatively so, compared to trying something new like your product. So remember, you have to cut through whatever your customer is doing now for them to do the thing that you want them to do. So now what? You've got your customer. You understand a customer value model, what customer problem solution ecosystem, what goes on in this space. But let's look specifically at that product market fit, kind of the larger idea that, can we get this idea for a solution to resonate with that early adopter customer enough to disrupt the current paradigm that we were just talking about. And most importantly, you got to learn as quickly as possible, or you're going to end up like this guy here. No offense to anybody who lives at home. I lived at home for quite a while myself, but I was definitely out by the time I was 40.
Bill,
yeah.
Really sorry to interrupt you, but are you supposed to be showing us some slides? Because I can't see anything on my screen.
Oh, for Pete's sakes, didn't I share my screen? Oh my gosh, sorry. Thanks for bringing that up. Where's my share tab audio window? Oh, here we go. There we go. Thank you. Well, now I feel dumb. And rightfully so. Real quick, that's where I live. That's the thing you want to blow up. You got a valid idea. You cut through the lies, and you don't want to end up like this guy living in his parents' home when he's 40. Again, no offense if you live at your parents' home. I did for a while myself. But here's the deal. is I worked with a really bright and talented young man from Nigeria who was trying to connect people with mental health needs to mental health facilities and services in the area. And he was working so diligently on building an app, and he was so good at building apps. So by the time I got to him, he'd spent months working on this app. And I said, well, do you know that you can actually connect a human being to an existing service? And he really hadn't even thought about that. I said, okay, stop what you're doing, close the lid on your laptop, and I want you to go out into your community. I want you to go find 2 or 3 people, and I want you to be able to physically bring them to a place that has mental health services, because you have to be able to prove to yourself that you can actually do this. Because if you can't yourself, then what chances would an app have of actually connecting someone? And he went out for that day, and he came back, and he completely changed how he was going about things because of it. And that's the magic of really talking to your customer. Instead of building things, build later. Right now, all you need is a concept, a value proposition to see if your customer bites on it. And again, all it has to be is, hey, give me that, or yeah, buy now. Just get behaviors from them. So, don't spend time building, spend time learning, and then build the smallest thing that you can to test that next riskiest assumption. We'll talk a little bit about that more very soon. Tools can provide an entrepreneur a systematic way to capture learnings to synthesize the path forward. Tools are important. Don't wing it. Use tools to keep score. The old saying is, when you keep score, the score goes up. A lot of the entrepreneurs I talk to, they're just kind of winging it. Maybe they have notes and they're keeping some notes and records and that sort of thing, but they don't have a scoreboard where everything that matters to their business is up on the wall and they can look at it every day and they can see the gaps. That's what I need you to be able to do, is have that tool so you can see the gaps. The tool doesn't lie. If you do good work and get it up there, the tool will show you what you need to do. That said, all tools are terrible if you don't use them right. So make sure you find a tool that works for you and then actually work the tool. Don't use it just to lie to yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one that's very popular. People around the world know this one. This is the Lean Canvas. It was based on Alex Osterwalder's business model canvas, but it was taken 1 or 2 steps back. The business model canvas is all about developing that final business model and going to market. Well, initially for an entrepreneur, going to market isn't your deal. You got to find out if someone actually cares enough to be able to give you the what you need, whether that money, whatever it is. So he adapted it, kind of pulled it back and turned it into this. And I'm going to take you through a sample idea very quickly, what it looks like. And then I'm going to give you the link to Ash Moria's YouTube channel. He's the fellow that adapted this. And he does a really, really great job at taking you through it and can really help you. It certainly helped me. So I'm going to take you through an example, and and then hopefully you'll feel confident enough that you could kind of take that next step forward. Now, just like the business model canvas, there's an order you go through here: segments, problems, value proposition, solution, channels, revenue stream, cost structure, key metrics, and unfair advantage. And we'll go through it in order, as I said, very quickly. So I'm going to fill one out here. I've seen a problem in my world. I've seen a problem around professional women. I see them at my grocery store at 5:30 in the evening, right before dinner, frantically trying to piece together a family-sized meal. They're in the frozen food section looking at a lasagna or a Salisbury steak or something, something that's family-sized. They've got, this and that and the other thing in their hands to try to cobble together a meal. And, and the look on their face isn't a happy one. They're not, this is not a happy thing for them. It's a chore, and it's something that's very stressful for them. I've talked to a number of these so-called working mothers and found a very significant problem in the area of meal planning. They'd like to reduce the last minute chaos, but actually when I tested whether or not they'd actually just do a meal plan for the week, they wouldn't do it on Sunday night when they should have time to do it. So I've got a lot more to learn, but let me take you through what the canvas would look like for this. In my customer segment, I like using what I call, Mad Libs. You remember Mad Libs from your kid. You fill in the blank and you kind of make a funny sentence. Well, this particular Mad Lib here says, I am this person. I have these characteristics of my customer, my early adopter customer. I want to do this thing, but I can't because of a surface problem, because of a root cause problem, which makes me feel an emotion. And remember, those emotions are the things that you tie to as an entrepreneur, because the emotions are the things that people want to change. They want to change those negative emotions into positive ones. And when they have a positive emotion and they simply want more of it, they'll do whatever it takes to get more of that positive emotion. In this case, I'm a mother who works full-time in a leadership position in my company. I want to gather my family around a hot meal at least a few times of the week because that's valuable to me. Because and I love having my family together, but I can't because I don't have the time to plan or prepare meals because of the demands of my job and fairly little help from my family making it happen. This makes me feel unfulfilled as a mother and resentful of my career. So the problem and existing alternatives, document those problems. What are they trying to solve? What are they doing to try to solve that? How is it working for them? What's working, what isn't working? And then what problems arise from the workarounds that they are doing? Because normally when you change one thing, you end up changing something else. Start thinking about how your solution disrupts those current behaviors and why. So the problem, heavy workload, not getting enough family time together, no help from the family. She's trying to, let's go out. We'll just go out real quick as a family. That works. We'll do last minute meal purchase at the store. This is where I'm observing my customer. And sometimes, even leaving work to cook early, which she doesn't want to do because that could jeopardize her job. So none of these existing solutions is really delivering what she's looking for. So that's the opportunity for me. The value prop and the high level concept. What makes your solution unique and disruptive to their current situation? What will get them to change what they're doing now, even if it's nothing? And then use an X for Y analogy, nail it down. This is a very common sort of thing. It's it's not the meal, it's the being together as a family. And the app and the high level concept, this will be an app that connects family members around all aspects of the meal, which is bottom line project management for family mealtime. What does your MVP look like? Again, the MVP, this is a term that's used kind of poorly out in the world. Minimum viable product. Well, minimum viable product isn't just a scaled down version of your product. Minimum viable product is the smallest thing that you can create, that you can build to test your riskiest assumption. And remember, the first iteration of your product will most likely not actually exist. It'll simply be a description. It'll be vaporware. And that's important because it costs a lot of money to build prototypes. If you can simply approach your customer with the description of it, that's the way to go. If I recall correctly, Dropbox was a situation like that years ago when they started. They didn't even have an app yet. They didn't have their product yet. All they did was describe the thing that they were going to build, and they instantly had thousands of people on their waiting list, which allowed them to justify the cost and the effort of building actually the first version of their application. So here, the app's going to collect RSVPs, or I'm going to collect RSVPs, maybe not through an app initially, and I'm going to deliver mom-level guilt trips to the people in the family to get them to do these things and to show up for dinner. It's going to assign mealtime duties. It's going to allow for meal selection with the existing opportunities in the community. Your channels, this is the most important thing. I mean, often for me, is that you can have a great product. You can have a product that people want, but if they can't access it, if there isn't an easy path to access, they'll never be able to get to it so that they can enjoy it and experience the value proposition. In this case, I'll build an app. I'm going to promote at the grocery store and the restaurant. I'm going to have a tell a friend program because I know a lot of these professional women have networks, and I'm going to have face group advertising as well because I think I can reach them through there based on what I know. The revenue stream, how will you make money? How will you collect it? What will your margin be? How you monetize existing customers? I think that's one of the most important things that I'll mention at the end is that how do you turn a satisfied customer into a passionate one? So I'm going to do one time only to get them started. They can just do it once to try it. We'll do subscriptions. They can upgrade to once or twice a week. I'll make money off of service fees, and I'm going to keep fairly little overhead and infrastructure so I can have a high margin on the fees that I do charge. What's your cost structure? Fixed, variable costs. What's it going to cost to advertise, promote? What does break even look like? Use your spreadsheet and come up with a couple of different sort of scenarios and see exactly, how many customers do I need to get to, and how much will it cost me to get to that point technologically to be able to see where those break even points are, because you may have different break even points based on technology. You want to start the lowest one first, again, because that's your lowest fidelity and your lowest, the one that gets you least painted in a corner from a product standpoint. You build the simplest product to get to that point to see if you can, you can even make money, and then understanding how making money will change as you change the technology. Key metrics, super important. How do you know that you'll be successful? How do you know that you're getting that value prop to the customer? Define the criteria and specifically what those numbers are. This is again where you can place some history revisionism, where you get a couple of customers and say, hey, that's pretty good. We're okay with that. No, in advance, decide what is success and what is failure. What is the fail condition for this particular version of our product? Well, if we can't get X number of employees by this date, then we've failed, because we have to have that many employees over that amount of time to break even, for instance. In this case, I'm going to measure month over month new customers. I'm going to measure referrals, because that's going to be the lifeblood of my business, is going to be promotion. Repeat customers, repeating more often, and then also how I'm able to reduce the cost per customer as we scale. That'll be a very important thing for me to check as well. But do pick your one metric. Really successful startups have one metric, and they relentlessly pursue it. Netflix, for instance, month over month subscriber growth. That was all they pushed early on, and so it defined all of their activities. Will this activity get increased month over month? Yes, or we believe it will. So that then showed them what they should be doing. And then finally, what's your unfair advantage? Why will your customers stick with you? And what will keep other people from trying to do the thing that you do? That's your secret sauce. For me, I think it's going to be the connected elements of RSVP, duties, meal delivery, and the fact that I get it. I understand the emotional attachment that mom has to having this meal with the family. So I get it, and I think other people might take longer to get it, or they might try to focus on things that aren't as emotional, and I think that's going to be my unfair advantage, at least long enough to get market traction. So the summary, I know I'm slightly over time, but I started a few minutes late, but I'm going to finish right on time. With your Canvas filled out, the gaps in your learning should be obvious. I'm going to show that in a second. The assumptions, what assumptions you're making in each box, because assumptions are the things you have to learn. Customer will do blank. I got to find out if they will or not. How can you validate or invalidate those through an experiment? Test behaviorally. What lengths will your customer go? Their ability to access your solution. That's those channels. The solution's delivery of the desired outcome. How happy is your customer after this thing happens? Did they get what they wanted? If and how much your customer will pay, and your ability to turn customers into promoted, which is technically going from satisfied up to passionate. Satisfied is fine, but passionate brings people in, and it brings them in right away. You don't have to promote to them. They'll just come and buy because of of what your existing customer says. So here's how your Canvas might look when you actually start putting up your assumptions. One of the biggest ones here in the unique value proposition is, what are the adjacencies here? What if I've got a customer who doesn't have as much problem with dinner, but they want to do other things, like maybe a family game night or some other type of family activity or music night or something like that? How do we help them deliver that as well to coordinate that? Those might be additional adjacencies that we want to continue to look at as we're learning about our core product. So finally, use tools, folks. Use a tool. Even I use tools, and I've been at this for a while, because the tool keeps you honest. The tool helps you keep score. The score goes up. Fill in the assumption gaps with learning. Always learn. Don't assume. Go out and learn. Even if it seems like it's obvious, go out and learn. Drive value, not products, to customers. And that's it, Simon.
Bill, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. This is what Bill's been talking about here, and it is technical. It's probably the most important skill an entrepreneur needs to learn: idea validation. Not building products, not finance, not all the other things that are really important. This is the key entrepreneurial skill that he's gone through. And these tools like lean canvases and things that Bill demonstrated, you're not going to learn overnight. The only way you can do them is use them, practice them, fill them in, look at the videos about them. It works. It really works. You don't need a business plan. This is really, these one pages is the key to validating your ideas. Now, Bill, I'm wondering, are there any questions online? Given that you're online, I'm wondering in the chat, is there any questions that or?
No. I don't see any yet.
Okay, well, if anybody online would like to put some questions, meanwhile, in the room, is there any questions about idea validation, about what Bill's been talking about to do with this part, this entrepreneurial skill? Gentlemen, you'll have to tell me and then I'll Bill, the question is, proof of concept. Do you need to do that step or can you skip it?
Well, proof of concept is the evidence that you need to continue forward. So again, the MVP concept is what's the smallest thing, the simplest thing, the cheapest thing that you can build to test your riskiest assumption. So whatever your riskiest assumption is right now, for instance, will the customer will pay is my riskiest assumption. Then I need to build a version of my product that tests that assumption now. So proof of concept, maybe from a bigger standpoint, like a technological concept, that's feasibility. Feasibility usually comes a little later. I mean, if something is just completely impossible, maybe we know it ahead of time, but feasibility usually comes after desirability and viability. Number one, does anybody care about it? Number two, is it something worth doing? And then feasibility is it possible to do, whether technologically or culturally or something like that. So yeah, proof of concept in whatever it is that is the riskiest assumption moving forward.
Thanks, Bill. Gentlemen,
Great question.
Bill, my question is there a sector or an area of business that the lean canvas may not apply?
Bill, the question is there an area of business and a sector that a business where the lean canvas doesn't apply?
So starting a new business is all about driving new value to a customer of some kind. Everything is a product, and I know I get people upset by this, but everything around you, if it exists, it must exist to drive value to somebody at some point. So regardless of what you're doing, you must be creating something with the motivation of driving some sort of value to someone. And if that's the case, then a tool like the one I showed you is going to still be valuable because it gets all elements of what you must do to establish that value all in one place. My question to you is, was there a type of industry that you were thinking about that maybe it wouldn't apply to? I'd be curious.
No industry.
Okay.
Just
So I'd love to have a conversation about that. If there's something out there that doesn't fit, it'd be interesting to find out why and then understand how we might be able to adjust the tool to fix it. But I haven't run into anything yet that doesn't it isn't served well by this canvas.
Bill, and just I mean, this is really from me. I know you didn't touch on this tool, the value proposition canvas, but often I find when people are saying, well, it's not applicable to a service, is I find jobs to be done is a particular way of saying, well, it's a product or a service. I don't know whether you want to mention anything about jobs to be done here.
I love jobs to be done. In fact, the next class I take at Harvard Business School is going to be taught by the father of jobs to be done. And jobs to be done is great because it answers the very basic question is, what is your customer going to hire your product to do? And what it does is it reinforces the fact that products are not, products are just solutions. They aren't outcomes. You have your customer and you have an outcome that they want to achieve. Your product simply paves the path between the two. So at the end of the day, people don't really care about your product. They care about its ability and how obvious it is to them that it will get them to that thing that they want, that job. And that job can be a pain, or it can be something that's just sort of a an everyday sort of thing, like getting the garbage out for me, or it could be something they're really passionate about. But it's important to understand what your product will play in being that vehicle that gets them from here to here.
Questions for Bill? validating ideas. I mean, this is the technical part of it. Question.
Hi, Bill. Thank you very much. So we had about a success plan for business, let's say like this, new ideas, comprehensive ideas, but we didn't talk about business ideas. So let's say that you have a very nice idea. You give to customers a value proposition which they are willing to pay for it. However, if the COVID hits again, let's say the real estate, hotels or bed and breakfast. So, and we might be the lockdown again. We had to close. However, the value proposition is very good. Use it. So risk management is evaluated very high, or it shouldn't be extremely evaluated.
So the question is.
Yeah, risk management should be taken into consideration. Very extremely.
The question is about taking risk management into consideration when putting your lean canvas together and your value proposition. So, no one could have predicted COVID, right? Is there any way we can use the canvas and put any risk management in place?
Well, I mean, there are all kinds of risks, and those risks can be in the form of assumptions. So we can write them as assumptions, customer will, or that kind of thing. For COVID, I mean, those are more like stress tests where you say, okay, here's my business model. Now let me apply it to a world where something has changed in a very specific way, and then you kind of wave your wand over the business model or the lean canvas or the business model canvas or whatever you're using, and say, okay, what changes now that people can't leave their homes? Or what happens, under this circumstance? Or what happens if, if inflation goes up significantly or interest rates go up significantly? So you could use it to kind of stress test your business idea by posing a world where one thing has changed, and then looking at your assumptions and what you've learned in the current system, and then kind of extrapolating what the changes might be.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Well, one more question from the room.
Canvas is just one of the models. So many models that we can apply, but Canvas is really good. What, in your opinion, is the most common mistake that people do when using Canvas? From experience, like some Canvas models, some people they construct them very well. Some people they make mistakes while constructing it. What kind of challenges, what kind of mistakes people usually do that we should be considerate about?
Did you hear that, Bill, or shall I?
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, what are the mistakes people use when using tools in general? So in general, like I said, all tools are terrible, because if you just play the tool, then you're not really going out and learning what you need to learn. So the biggest mistakes is putting things up on the tool that are actually assumptions and not learning. Because the things that are up on the tool have to be things that you validate. They have to reflect the truth, the best truth as you know it, and not simply be assumptions. Because the path forward, by de-risking your assumptions, the path forward actually gets narrower and narrower, so that when you get to the end, there are no surprises left. But if you don't validate or invalidate those assumptions, the path forward gets wider and wider and riskier, so at the end you actually have fairly little chance of landing on real customer value. So as I mentioned earlier, don't lie to the tool. The tool should be helping direct you what you should be learning. Be engaged with it. Don't make it a thing that you just kind of do on the side. Make it the core of what you do. This is where everything of record in our entrepreneurial journey is going to go, and we're going to use it to keep moving forward and to stop us at the right time as well. So and the other big mistake is people continue on. They keep iterating when they think they're pivoting or they're persevering. They keep iterating on the same experiment because it didn't go the way they wanted it to. Well, remember, the customer isn't always right, but they are always the customer. So when they say no, believe them, but also ask why not. So let the tool help you ask those questions and get to those points where you can ask those really great questions and get to those points where you have to make a decision. Do we pivot? Do we persevere? Do we iterate? Don't iterate yourself into bankruptcy, because you want to be able to survive to the next idea.
Thank you, Bill. We've got time for one more question.
In regard of the stress test, and I'm wondering really, would you add information security or trust into it?
Trust, Bill?
Well, usually it's security, privacy by design. So if something goes wrong, it should be probably in there.
Yeah, so that becomes so again, to go to Netflix, because I know one of the fellows at Netflix and heard a lot about this sort of thing. At Netflix, they had a committee where they hypothesized all the possible things that could go wrong, all the sort of black swan events that could impact them, and they decided in advance what they would do as a company that day. So that they never had to wait. See, a lot of companies get in trouble because something bad happens and then they wait a week or 2 weeks or a month, or they cover it up and help people find out. And in the case, was it Kevin Spacey or whoever who was in that one show of theirs, and he got in trouble. I don't know. It was some sort of sexual, problem that he got himself into. Well, they canceled his show that day. It was done, no question. They didn't have to huddle up and talk about, hey, do we cancel the show? They cancel it immediately because they'd already decided. So this is a really great practice to do that sort of thinking ahead of time. Okay, what happens? We're going to do everything we can to prevent a data breach, but what happens when there is one? What's step one? What's step two? What are we going to tell the customer? How are we going to make it as transparent as possible so that we turn something that's negative into at least longer term a positive thing? Hey, look how transparent we are, and look how we made it right for our customers. Our customers realize that these things happen. They don't like them, but they realize it, and they will judge us by how we deal with it. So having those procedures in place before it happens, so that you just push a button and what you're going to do happens, that's the way to do it.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you very much. Okay, Bill, we're gonna start the session now. I really appreciate it. If anybody online has any questions for Bill, maybe you can go directly online. In the room here and online, if there aren't any questions, we want to go back to our networking now. So have a break. You can go out the room. We'd like you to speak to somebody you haven't spoken to.